In the wind-scoured highlands of northern Britain, beneath layers of peat, stone, and forgotten centuries, lie the traces of a people who once shaped the fate of a nation, yet left almost nothing of themselves behind. For nearly 2,000 years, they have existed as a riddle on the edge of Europe's story, sometimes portrayed as painted warriors, sometimes as shadows haunting the edges of Roman walls. Now, archaeology and ancient DNA are beginning to speak, and what they reveal may rewrite everything we thought we knew about who the Picts truly were and how they vanished. For centuries, the Picts have confounded historians. They appear suddenly in Roman records in the 3rd century, already formidable enough to trouble an empire at its height. Then, just a few centuries later, they disappear just as abruptly. No surviving language, no written histories, almost no physical remains. Yet their former land, Scotland's rugged heart, never forgot them. Their memory lingered in whispers, in place names with no clear origin, in towering stones carved with symbols no scholar has ever deciphered. Their kings ruled by rules unlike any other society in early medieval Europe, and their victories permanently altered the map of the British Isles. A new wave of discoveries, radiocarbon dating, excavations of ancient hill forts, and, in 2023, a groundbreaking ancient DNA study from burials in northeastern Scotland has begun to connect the fragments. Together, they reveal a story far more complex than that of painted raiders, beyond Rome's reach. The Picts were not primitive, not peripheral, not a historical footnote. They were builders, artists, sailors, and strategists. An organized society whose identity blended kinship, secrecy, myth, and power. Roman chroniclers described them as ghosts in the night, raiders who slipped past heavily guarded walls, struck isolated forts, and vanished without trace. They wrote of ambushes, covert signals, and movements that seemed impossible to track in early form of guerrilla warfare. Rome could defeat armies, it could not defeat specters. So Rome built walls. Hadrian's Wall failed to stop them. The later, stronger Antonine Wall failed as well. Roman generals recorded their frustration. The peoples of the north were the only ones the empire never fully conquered. But if the Picts were only warriors, their mystery would not run so deep. Even more striking, some lineages continue into modern populations. The Picts did not disappear biologically. They disappeared culturally. The DNA also revealed something else. These were not scattered, isolated tribes. They formed interconnected networks with shared ancestry across large regions of early medieval Scotland. This challenges the image of the Picts as fragmented and elusive. Instead, they appear to have belonged to a stable, organized social world, one that somehow dissolved without leaving written testimony. So why did the memory vanish if the people remained? Some scholars argue that shifting political and cultural influences slowly reshaped identity, absorbing older symbols and traditions into new systems of rule. Others suggest that growing ties with Gaelic-speaking realms replaced the Pictish name as rulers adopted new titles and narratives. Some believe the very secrecy that once protected their power ultimately obscured their legacy. And there is another possibility. Their success sealed their disappearance. As Pictish kingdoms merged into what became the Kingdom of Alba, identity did not collapse, it expanded. The people once called Picts became something larger, Scottish. Their disappearance was not a fall, but a transformation. Perhaps the truth lies in the pattern that defined them from the beginning. They left little behind because leaving little behind was their way. They fought in silence. They ruled through hidden lines. They carved meanings no enemy could read. And when seen too clearly, they vanished. Even now, echoes remain, in place names with no explanation, in folklore of shimmering warriors and night raids, in families whose DNA still carries the imprint of a people history nearly forgot. The Picts may be gone, but the world they defended remains. Scotland exists because of them. Across northern Scotland stand intricately carved stones, spirals, crescents, rods, beasts, and abstract symbols that repeat with precision yet refuse translation. One figure appears again and again, the Pictish beast. Neither horse, nor dolphin, nor dragon, nor any known animal. Some believe it marked clans. Others think it encoded alliances or authority. A few argue it represents a lost mythological creature. No one knows. If this was a written system, it remains one of Europe's last undeciphered languages. Then there was their system of inheritance. Medieval writers, including Bede, recorded something astonishing. Pictish kingship did not pass from father to son, but through the maternal line, often to a sister's son. In early medieval Europe, such a system was almost unheard of. It suggests a society where women held decisive dynastic power, and where identity was preserved through lineage deeper than simple paternity, possibly guarded, ritualized, and secret. The rituals themselves leave faint traces. In Orkney and the Northern Isles, stone chamber tombs aligned with solstices contain bones that appear deliberately broken, moved, and rearranged, perhaps part of ancestral rites, remembrance ceremonies, or spiritual communion with the dead. Medieval sources later associated the Picts with weather magic, invisibility, and night walking. These were not literal claims, but reflections of how unsettlingly effective and spiritually foreign they appeared to outsiders. Yet the Picts were never isolated. They were sailors. Roman accounts describe Pictish pirates raiding along the North Sea, striking coastal settlements and vanishing before retaliation could form. Their coastal stronghold at Burghead Fort was so massive that when Viking raiders finally destroyed it centuries later, the fires burned so intensely that the stone walls vitrified, melted into glass. Archaeologists still find the fused rock today. Their defining moment, however, did not come against Rome. It came in the year 685, when the powerful Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Northumbria pushed north, threatening to absorb the entire region. At the Battle of Dunnichin, the Picts annihilated the invading army. Had they lost? Historians agree that Scotland as a distinct land would never have existed. The northern half of Britain would have become England. Instead, Pictish victory preserved a separate identity, long enough for it to evolve into something new. By the 10th century, the Picts were gone. Not defeated, not exterminated, simply absorbed. Their language vanished entirely, one of the greatest linguistic disappearances in European history. Their symbols ceased to be carved. Even their name faded from use, abandoned by their own descendants. An 800-year-old culture evaporated, leaving behind stones, legends, and silence. And then came the graves. In 2023, researchers at the University of Aberdeen analyzed ancient DNA from Pictish burials in northeastern Scotland. The results overturned long-held assumptions. The Picts were not invaders, not outsiders, not migrants from distant lands. Genetically, they were deeply rooted local populations, linked directly to earlier Iron Age communities.